Hello there. In this brief video, I'd like to offer you a review of the new book by Bill Plotkin called Wild Mind, a Field Guide to the Human Psyche. And in this part one review, I'd like to speak to why this book, both Bill's goals and objectives for the book, what he's trying to communicate, as well as my assessment of who I believe this book would be for and who would appreciate it. And I believe this book is particularly relevant to anyone who is concerned with and works in the field of human development, change, resiliency, or transformation. Coaches, guides, therapists, organizational development people. Anyone in those fields who is in love with nature and who might find themselves disillusioned or concerned with the state of the world, both where we're at and where we're going. This is Mr. Plotkin's third book, the first being Soulcraft, Crossing into the Mysteries of Nature and the Psyche. And the second book being Nature and the Human Soul, Cultivating Wholeness and Community in a Fragmented World. So with this series, Bill is picking up the structural elements, as he would say, to the human psyche. Now, I've always been fond of this quote, you are never lost if you don't care where you are. So it's in the realm of trying to understand where we are and who we are and what it means to be a human being. Bill is offering us here what he calls a nature-based map of the human psyche. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm guessing that many of us, such as myself, spent much of my life one way or another feeling lost, both trying to discover what it is to be a man in this world, and perhaps similar for women that I know. But what is it to be a human being? What is it to be professionally involved and rewarded with the passions that move us? Where are we politically or religiously or educationally in our world? If you're concerned about any of those kinds of issues or questions, then I suspect this book you'll find relevant. Briefly about me, my name's Larry Glover. I'm the founding director of the Wild Resiliency Institute, and I did receive a free review copy of this book, but I have no other affiliations with the Animas Valley Institute or Mr. Plotkin. I do have better than 4 decades as a professional in the outdoors and as a professional and a student of human change and transformation. I'm also the author of the forthcoming book, Wild Resiliency, Developing a Literacy of Deep Identity, Purpose and Meaning Through Your Love of Nature. Now, as you can well guess, there is a deep resonance between the work of Bill Plotkin and the Animas Valley Institute and my own work. Here's a quote from Wild Mind that many have likely seen, and the Wild Mind book is deeply rich poetically and in such quotes as this, which is something I always appreciate in a book. This one from Gary Snyder: to speak of wilderness is to speak of wholeness. Human beings came out of that wholeness. And is that wild? This is the wildness that Bill is speaking to with his book, Wild Mind, and his work. And he's pointing us back to this wholeness of our origins that both we arose out of and that sustain us. This quote by Gregory Bateson: the major problems in the world are the result of the difference between how nature works and the way people think. So here again, through this quote, Bill is pointing us towards this discrepancy that exists between what is both possible, if you will, if we look to nature as a model of who we can be and where we might go, and the way things are operating. There are 3 core messages to this book, according to Bill. The key to healing and growing whole is not suppressing symptoms, eliminating wounds, but rather cultivating our wholeness. The horizontal wholeness of the self, as well as the vertical wholeness afforded by our relationships with soul and spirit. So here Bill is following the model of restoration ecology, if you will, and strengthening and paying attention to that which can be healthy within us and whole. So rather than a pathological orientation, or rather than pain and being seduced by what's not working and what's wrong in our worlds and our lives, Bill is using what's whole and healthy within us innately as a potentiality and the cultivation of that to move us towards into the future. The second core message is there's a vital and synergistic relationship between cultivating personal wholeness and building life-enhancing cultures. So he's pointing to this reciprocity that is innately there in indigenous cultures or healthy cultures, in which the individual wholeness is honored and recognized as being reciprocal to the life-enhancing culture that it resides within. And finally, the third core message, there are three imperatives of any healthy, mature culture. First is to protect and nurture the vitality and diversity of its environment. This in sharp contrast to the consumeristic, objectifying, capitalistic culture that is destroying our environment and our world. The second imperative of healthy cultures is to provide adequate numbers of true adults and elders to nurture, educate, and initiate the next generations, and to create or revitalize cultural practices for the well-being and fulfillment of its people. So there's got to be enough people around who are oriented towards their own wholeness in order to have a healthy culture. And third imperative is to protect and foster the wholeness of the culture's individual members, which is to say the self of each person, and his or her relationship with soul and spirit. So once again, Bill is integrating soul and spirit with this, with the wholeness of the self. What he means by wholing, I mean the cultivation of the self, including all four of its facets, a necessary step in optimal human development. So as a developmental model, Bill is really pointing here towards this optimum human development. Again, in contrast to much of psychology, Western modern psychology's focus on pathology, coming out of a model of medicine and disease. And in part 2 video, we'll address the map that he's speaking of in relationship to the self here. Psychological wholeness also necessitates a mature and reciprocal relationship with the more than human world of which we are members. This is a fundamental message within the book, and again speaks to those who might find the book of interest. And here by Albert Einstein, also speaking to this wholeness that Bill Plotkin is pointing us to in his new book, humanity is going to require a substantially new way of thinking if it is to survive. So this is the direction that Bill is pointing us to with his map, nature-based map of the human psyche. Again, I heartily endorse the book, and check out wildmindbook.com. There's some good free resources there, particularly for professionals and people that want to dive deeper, as well as copies of the nature-based map and a great little video preview of the book. So if you'd like to spread the meme and let others know about it, please click like on this video and let people know. Let's all move towards our wholeness together. We need each other. Thanks, and have a great day.